Think Again will make you more intelligent, persuasive, and self-aware by identifying the power of being humble about what you don't know, how to recognize blind spots in your thinking before they start causing you problems, and what you can do to become more effective at convincing others of your way of thinking. Favorite quote from the author: "We're mental misers. We often prefer the ease of hanging on to old views over the difficulty of grappling with new ones." Adam Grant. Do you remember the BlackBerry smartphone? In 2009, BlackBerry controlled about half of the entire smartphone market. They were all the rage, with everyone from President Obama to Bill Gates saying they couldn't live without one. But fast forward only 5 years later, and they became almost non-existent. The company now had a market share of just 1%. What happened? It's all because the creator of BlackBerry, Mike Lazaridis, wouldn't change his mind. If you remember, Apple's iPhone was beginning to gain market share around this time. While it slowly started gaining more ground, Lazaridis continued to think that most customers just wanted a phone to do the basics, make calls and send emails. He couldn't imagine someone wanting to do much more than that on a cell phone. Well, we all know how that went. The moral of the story here is that sometimes we need to rethink our beliefs. So many of us find comfort in conviction and prefer not to rethink our beliefs because it's not as easy. What would the world be like if we all practiced opening our minds to new ideas regularly? In Think Again, The Power of Knowing What You Don't Know by Adam Grant, we explore the science of changing our mind and learn how to help others learn to change theirs too. Grant teaches us why we should not only allow ourselves to doubt, but also entirely rethink our beliefs regularly. Here are 3 of the most helpful lessons this book taught me. 1. You can never know what you don't know, so stay humble. 2. With the right tools and experiences, even the most ignorant people can change their minds. 3. Ask people questions to convince them of your point of view. Think you've got life all figured out? You'd better think again. Let's get learning. Lesson 1. If you want to be smarter and more likable, admit that you don't know everything. Did you know that most of us are completely unaware of the things we aren't very good at? In fact, sometimes we even think we are good at the things we are the worst at. For example, studies have found that people who score lowest on logical reasoning and sense of humor tests also have the most overinflated perception of their abilities in these areas. Making matters worse, someone who falsely believes they're good at something is less likely to try to improve in that skill. A study of emotional intelligence found that those participants with the lowest emotional intelligence scores were the least likely to want help in improving their emotional intelligence. So what can we do about this apparent blind spot? Stay humble. If you start admitting that you don't know everything, you will open up to learning new things. This means you'll become more competent. And don't worry, because humility and confidence aren't mutually exclusive qualities. Confidence is all about self-belief, while humility means you are willing to examine your own methods. Successful people have both. They are confident in their ability to succeed eventually, but they are humble enough to evaluate whether or not they are using the best methods to achieve that goal. Lesson 2. Sometimes, even the most ignorant people change their minds. Grant tells the story of black musician Daryl Davis. In 1983, he started talking to Ku Klux Klan members to convince them to change their minds about race. Since then, he has persuaded many of the KKK members he has talked to rethink their beliefs and leave. Crazy enough, one of these former KKK members even asked Davis to be a godfather to his daughter. As Davis's story illustrates, one of the best ways to change people's prejudiced beliefs is to show them how arbitrary the beliefs are. When Davis talked to the Klan members, he realized many only had white supremacist beliefs because their family did. So he encouraged them to think about the roots of why they believed what they did, and this lets them see just how flawed the beliefs were. From there, they began to question racism, and in the end, often changed their minds about it. Grant also saw this phenomenon when he studied animosity between Yankees and Red Sox fans. Both sides typically believed the other group to be arrogant, aggressive, and unpleasant. In an experiment, Grant told the baseball fans to write an essay about how random some of the reasons they hated the other side were. He also had them think that if they were born into a different family, they probably would like whatever team they supported. After writing the essays, fans on both sides realized that their prejudices were actually wrong, and even silly. So, if you want someone to change their mind, don't just tell them they're wrong and why. One of the best ways to make someone rethink their beliefs is to show them that the only reason they have those beliefs is because of chance. Lesson 3. If you want to convince people of your perspective, ask them the right questions. Another solid way to get people to rethink their beliefs is to interview them with the right questions. Grant tells the story of a young mother who was an anti-vaxxer or someone who didn't want her baby to get the measles vaccine. The maternity ward staff brought in Dr. Arnaud Gagnier, who they knew could help. He used what is known as motivational interviewing and an effective persuasion technique that helps people find their own reasons to rethink something rather than just giving them your reasons why they should change their mind. This type of interview begins with honest curiosity to understand where the beliefs come from. Gagnier started by asking the woman open-ended questions about why she felt the way she did about this vaccine. Gagnier then began to ask about how she felt about the consequences of not vaccinating her child. A motivational interviewer doesn't simply try to persuade someone with many facts. They listen instead. So Gagnier acknowledged her fears in a technique known as reflective listening. When he was finished, he emphasized that it was her choice. Sometimes people don't change their minds because they want to have their own freedom than actually disagreeing. So it's so important to give someone the freedom to make their own decision. After the interview, she decided on her own to vaccinate her baby with no persuasion needed.